with Britta. And today I'm always excited, but today I'm especially excited because we're going to talk about money with Silja. And we were chatting before we went live, and Silja said something that made me laugh, and we just, in a way, we almost had this. We had an amazing coffee talk before we even went live. And I said, in Germany, talking about money it's almost like a taboo. Like you don't talk about it. And then Silja, you said, it's like sex, like money and sex. We all desire it, but no one really wants to talk about it. And then the conversation took off, and we talked about money and talked about sex, and it was really fun. So we're going to keep it to the money today. We might have another sex talk at some point, but today we're going to speak about money. And when we connected, Silja, I shared that I have money stories, and it took me a lot of internal work to overcome my money stories, because growing up, there was always fighting about money in my house, even though we were not poor at all. I mean, we were quite wealthy, but there was always this fighting about money. And you said, it's not always that you're poor and fight over money. Even when you're wealthy, there's stuff coming up around money. So before we dive into that and how we can overcome all these sort of limiting beliefs, tell us, who are you? Who are you? Like, how do you, like, you're a business mentor, and we've connected over a mentor that you and I worked with, and European Souls. So tell me, how did you become interested in money?
Sure. Oh, this is like my favorite topic. First of all, Britta, thank you for having me here. I really enjoy being here. So a little bit about myself. So like you say, I'm like a serial entrepreneur. I actually have started like 9 businesses. So it's been my life always. But how I came so interested in this topic is throughout my entrepreneur journey, like most of it, like I had some huge wins, like, we kind of made quite a bit of money in some of the companies, but I used to struggle financially. Like most of the companies I was building, I was barely making ends meet. And I kind of saw like almost these 20 years of my entrepreneur journey it was an awful battle. And money really determined, what I could do and what I couldn't. And, I really was on the mercy of money. And then finally, I felt like I was catching a break. And then I'm Icelandic originally, or I'm Icelandic, but I've been living abroad everywhere. So, I moved back to Iceland to build a company there. And then, the famous or infamous Icelandic crisis of 2008.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, my business was like booming. Like it was going so well. We had employees, and I was like, yes, finally, I'm out of this.
I made it. Yeah.
And, then the Icelandic crisis happened. Overnight, my world collapsed, my whole business went down under, and myself as well. So I lost everything, but not only that, I went into massive amount of debt. And I was like 26 years old. And it carried with me for, the next decade. So even I will start a few businesses, I was so scared it will just disappear. And what happened every time, because, I learned to be very good at attracting money, but every time it would just disappear. The latest one was my divorce. So I managed to get, a divorce.
There it goes again.
Yeah. So and that made me so interested in this topic. And then I kind of realized my father is a businessman too. And I'm basically repeating his pattern. So he managed to get out of it, but I was just doing exactly what he was doing. So it was after my divorce, I kind of got to the position, I'm a single mom to a beautiful daughter at the time. She was just a little bit over 1 year old when I decided to do this. I was like, okay, no, this is not going to be her pattern. It's not a legacy I'm going to have her have as well. So I got really curious about this topic, and I decided, at the time I had a startup and we recently got investors. So I decided to do my own thing and become a business mentor, because I struggled so much and help others not to do that. And to really investigate this, because what I noticed with a lot of people I was mentoring at the time is, when I gave them the strategy, things will shift. But then, the subconscious or whatever was happening, they started to self-sabotage. So they started getting amazing revenue, that, the business was growing, and then bam, something would happen.
Oh my God, I can so relate. And I read somewhere, I think 98% of how we function, what we do, is the subconscious.
Yeah, definitely. It's around 95% is like basically us
Yeah.
on autopilot. So I was like, okay, I gotta fix this for my clients and myself. So, I got into every book I could read about it, and I started testing and trialing everything I could. And then as I implemented this with my clients, and the results I see now when they're really tapping into that. So like you say, it is subconscious. And what most of us aren't aware of, we get so frustrated. It's like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we repeating patterns which make no sense whatsoever, particularly when we consider ourselves, like a lot of us are very clever, right? And then we're like, why are we behaving like this?
Yeah.
Why are we repeating destructive patterns? Either like a lot of people in business have these feast and famine cycles, like suddenly there's a boom in their business and the next month is a famine and they go, oh! So either that or some sort of patterns, or like we plateau or we limit ourselves, or we're constantly like, on the mercy of money. And that is all to do with subconscious, and that is all to do with limiting beliefs. And so the funny thing is, these are beliefs we gather when we are like up to 5 years old or 7-year-old. So basically, we are run by this, Jen Sincero said this beautiful in her book that, Matters of Making Money is like, it's essentially run by like this 7-year-old.
Can you just imagine, like we're business owners with the 7-year-old like kind of consciousness in a way. That is so interesting.
Yeah, and that is the reason to do these patterns. It's like as soon as something changes, that 7-year-old who's running the subconscious is like going, no, that is something new, and they drag you back, and you're not even aware of it.
Yeah, and we're so like, we're habits of creature, right? And we like the ego just wants us to stay the same. And I love how you said that with your daughter, that you didn't want to pass that legacy on.
No,
because we have such a responsibility for our children. I have 2 daughters myself, and I look at my money stories. So like, how can we actually overcome those money stories? And you said the limiting beliefs, and like, how did you do it? And how do you do that with your clients? Like, what can people who are watching, what can they do?
Yeah, so there are a few tricks. So I'll just very quickly tell about these, the most common kind of money blocks and how you can actually overcome it. So a lot of the things what we are going through is a lot to do with money, makes us often feel very unsafe. So kind of the first step is kind of like calm the nervous system, like, because when we are kind of like with money, it's the same as a very deep relationship. It's something that becomes very emotionally triggered. Yeah. And while we are kind of like, our nervous system is like, not calm, we are triggering that 7-year-old. So kind of the first step, before I dig into the 7 money blocks, is to calm the nervous system. And like, what I love to do is basically just put my hands, one of the heart, one of the lower belly, and just say, Silja, you're okay. And then ask myself, like, what is the worst that can happen? And then really digging into these worst case scenario, and what we often find,
It's interesting. I do that so much with my speakers. It's like in a way, like the stage fright thing, and the nervous system just fires and fires, and the racing heart and the sweaty palms. And I find as soon as we like work with that physical touch and the breath and what's the worst that can happen, things start to shift.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of like the first step to do is like, okay, so you can't pay your bills, and what, then what? And then you just kind of go through that. Yeah. But then when you have calm that down, and then you can refocus yourself, and then you can ask like, but what is the best that can happen? Really work that through, and then you can decide what you focus on. And whatever you truly focus on is a bit like being in a racing car. Is like if you're in a racing car and you're focusing on that wall, you are going to that wall. Absolutely. But if you focus somewhere else, exactly. Yeah. So that's like the first thing it is, because, money activation or money creation is a bit like dating. Is all about energy. And when you are scared or you're desperate or something like that, you're repelling money, right? So you need to step into this identity or this calmness or this reassurance. But so one of the favorite things to do, and like just before I go into this, the money blocks, is just ask yourself, like, most of you, I guess you are in business, like, how would you feel or how would you behave if you just knew you always had enough clients waiting for you? Yeah. That's a lot of people just behave so much differently, right? Absolutely. And that is just, in a way, it's a tiny question, but it's a huge shift in the way we show up. Yeah, totally.
I can shrink or I can expand.
Yeah, exactly. It is so different, because then if you just know you always have enough clients, and the fact is everybody has, and that's something, we learned from our mentor as well. Like her famous thing, Meryl, was like, if you have 7 people waiting for you, and that is a certainty. That's something I see with all my clients. You have everybody in your network.
Yes, you do.
And when you are in that certainty, you just start behaving so much more differently, and then you start taking bolder actions, right?
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about this most, common like limiting beliefs we have, because these really determine our lives. So I would say it's probably around 7. These are the most common, and I'm just going to go very quickly into it, and then we'll talk a little bit of what you can do immediately.
Absolutely.
To shift it. Okay, so like block number 1, and this is really common, is you have limiting beliefs. And how kind of that looks like is you might say something like money doesn't grow on trees. Or you just feel like you never can afford the things you want. So you might somehow always manage to afford what you need, just never the money you really want. So you kind of,
it's like this scarcity mindset.
Exactly. So somehow it's always the bare minimum. So you're just basically in a survival mode, right? And that is just, you have limiting beliefs. And what is the beautiful of it, you can really change that and rewrite those stories. And a lot of these stories come from our parents, they come from somewhere else. So, we never fact check them, so we can always rewrite them. And the second one, and this is really common, particular for people who are coaches and coaches in particular, I would say, is you play it too small. And this is probably you would maybe see with a lot of your clients, Britta, is they kind of often fear to be in the spotlight, or they limit the spotlight because they just fear they're not good enough.
It's like this push and pull. It's like they want to, and then they don't. And it's probably the same with your clients. I want the money, but subconsciously I don't, and then there's this push and pull.
Yeah, so really mixed messages, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
totally. And this, and block number 3 is, and like I say, I'm from Iceland. I live in Netherlands. I see this block all over the Netherlands and Iceland too. And I know, I've been quite often in Germany too. And I think this is something a lot of, Germans can resonate with. You really feel like you have to work so hard for it, otherwise you don't deserve it. And
I'm German. I know working hard. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And you really have to work long hours. That's kind of the pride, pride and joy of it.
Yeah, it's like if it doesn't come hard, it's not worth anything. So you work yourself, and I mean I've done this several times. I work myself into the ground. And then I collapse at some point. It took me a long time to just notice that and move away from that.
Definitely. And what do you see with a lot of like service entrepreneur, is they undercharge and over deliver.
Yeah. And I can relate to that one. Until I started working with one of my coaches, I was just giving. He's like, "Don't. It's okay. You're good."
You just more good at exactly.
You don't have to kill yourself.
No. And often, like what people don't really notice, like often what I see, like one of the first things I do with my clients, I raise the prices. And because there's a discrepancy between, and then, the reason you might be struggling to get clients is people feel there's something off. They just can't put their finger on. Your service is like so abundant, but the price tag is just not matching. And there's not alignment there, right?
It's so interesting. I mean, I see it in so many things, like totally like maybe shallow what I'm saying right now, but I'm seeing this amazing sweater somewhere.
It's
gorgeous. And then it's like 10 euros. And I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. And I don't buy it because I don't believe that I really get good value.
No, exactly. But also, like a lot of us want the high quality, right?
Yes.
And high quality is something we associate with a certain price tag, right? And now I think that has also been the general vibe, is like do less and have kind of more, like enjoy more. And that is exactly it. So if you are in the category of undercharging and over delivering, you're not going to get the results for your clients either. So you're not doing them a favor anyways, or yourself, because you're just burning out. You're not respecting yourself.
Absolutely. I can relate to that. When I started my business in the big crisis in 2008, I was so desperate for clients. I would just and I work with companies, and I would just went all in, and I worked myself into the ground, and I over-delivered, I undercharged, and I didn't love my job anymore. So,
no.
And there's a fear behind that. I mean,
it is a really big fear. Sorry, nose is really itching suddenly. It's funny. No, but it really is. And that is something, one of the first things, like I say, I raise the prices for my clients, but we also make sure we start aligning every single piece of the business to them. And then you start serving the way you love to serve, and you have this beautiful space, magic happens, and you benefit your clients. So when you're charging too little because you're scared of not getting clients, again, you're activating that, the universe is a bit like the humor. Whatever you really focus on, you get. And then client, you're like, but I won't get clients. Well, you're not going to get it with any price point.
Yeah. What makes total sense to me.
Yeah, totally.
So now, like, what else is there? Everyone watching, we have, Silja only has 30 minutes. So we are like...
Yeah. So let me quickly go through. I have 3 more blocks.
Yes, 3 more.
Let's talk about what the audience can do immediately to shift it, right?
Yes.
Okay. So block number 4, and this is something I see so much, particularly with women. Sorry to gender stereotype, but I think this is what I see a lot with women clients. Is receiving money or gifts makes you feel very guilty or awkward. It's like you are really generous to give other people, but when somebody gives you even a compliment, you just can't take it.
Yeah.
And you just make it really hard for people to pay for you.
Yeah.
And then money block number 5, and this is like you just somehow just don't feel you're good enough, or not worthy. And how this kind of shows off. You constantly have excuses or stories that you're too old, or you're too young, or you're too untechnical, and that is the reason you're justifying why things just can't happen.
Yeah. So you keep things in place as they are.
Yeah. So you're like, oh, I'm too old for this. I don't really understand technology or something, and then you kind of then you kind of limit yourself there. And then the block number 6, and that's something you were saying, but you're taking decisions from lack of place of lack or fear or resistance. And how this kind of looks like is like you feel like you can either have this or this. Like you can't have it all. It's like either do this or this. Yeah. And you always kind of makes it like, it's a bit like, the hamster wheel kind of things people there. Yeah. Like, but I need to get these clients, otherwise I won't, So, yeah. And then the final one, this has been my friend, probably yours for a little bit too.
Tell me.
And that is the upper limit. Like when you start hitting bigger numbers, and that's something, now I just wrapped up 100K lounge. When you hit these bigger numbers, it become you're not used to that. So that little child kind of wants to bring you back down into the comfort zone. And what happens often, you get sick or technical things happen.
Oh my goodness, yes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I get sick because I can't seem to hold that amount.
Yeah.
Like and then I do everything, to kind of did everything to push it away.
Totally. It's really funny. Now I know this. Now I recognize this. Like I notice, like if I'm having a lounge or workshops and I get sick or technical problem, it's happens every time now with me. And then I'm like, oh, cool. I'm hitting a new income level, and that happens. But then I just decided to look at it that way.
And this is interesting because that also puts you in the driver's seat. So you're not like, oh, I'm sick again now, I can't launch, or my computer broke down now, I can't do the workshop. You're like, okay, now this is what's happening. What you say.
Yeah.
Just, take an aspirin or use my iPad or, whatever. But that's powerful.
Yeah, exactly. And something, big realization. So what I have learned, I learned I could earn a lot of money. And that's something I, the beginning I had trouble with that. But then, now I know, like every time I want to bigger numbers, I can do that. Yeah. But what I just realized, like relatively recently, like only a few months ago, is I didn't believe I could keep the money. So while I was getting bigger numbers, I had a bucket. So I was earning a lot. It was just like my expenses were high. It was just leaking. Unexpected bills will happen. And I was constantly just, basically breaking even though the months were like 30K or 40K, 40 to 30,000, 40,000. And that was just because I didn't believe. And the funny thing, as soon as I decided, no, I can also keep the money. Money stays.
Yes, and I can 100% still relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like what you say, it's this money leak. So there's so much money coming and then all this stuff happens. Our well in the countryside just broke, which is going to be a huge bill. I'm like, why is this happening now?
Yeah, and that is subconscious belief. It's just because deep down, like, you know, your reality is like all of a sudden the money is coming, but subconscious is not used to
like,
you
no,
also
no.
keep it. So voila, a big bill happens, something unexpected happens.
That is so interesting. Huge eye opener for me right there.
Yeah, totally. So let's talk about a few things that you can just do immediately to really. So first of all, we need to tap into that, you know, child which is running our kingdom, right? Because like you say, 95% of our behavior is there. So one of the quickest and best way to do that, in my opinion, is like bring it out. So what I do regularly and what I advise all my clients to do is just journal, like start bringing a piece of paper out and just start going over all the memories you have about money. So I can send you a list which you can share with the audience with
absolutely
questions, but it's just basically kind of going like, you know, whoever said to you, hey, Silja, why do you want that? Like, who do you think you are? Or we can't afford it, or people said rich people are greedy. Like, just start somewhere, and what will you be surprised, more and more memories come up.
Yeah.
And it can be a little bit of painful experience. It's something, breathe through it. But you need to kind of get them out. And then when you start looking at it, you're like, that's like some of the things we believe and we generally believe is ridiculous.
It is. It's like clearing out the wound. You know, you just don't want to touch it, and then you do all these things to avoid touching the wound.
Yeah.
And then once you look at it, it's like, okay, it's going to hurt a little bit, but it's going to be way better in the end.
Yeah, totally. And because otherwise you just, you know, because you're believing, like deep down, you took this at the face level because you were too young to logic with it. Yeah. And these are your beliefs and stories. So like, first of all, just get them all out and then start fact checking them and just ask yourself, is this true? Like, this is where I come from. And then you can say, no, I don't believe, let's say, rich people are greedy. Of course, some people are greedy and evil, but some people aren't. And money only will amplify me. It will only make me, you know, make more impact to help more people. So like really go through that and fact check that. So that's kind of like, you know, one of the first steps to do is like, you know, go through it and rewrite a new belief.
Right. Yeah. Rewrite your story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. And then just forgive yourself about it. Like there's this amazing Hawaiian like a mantra or something I absolutely love. It's called Ho'oponopono, I think.
I have never heard of it.
You never heard? Oh my God, like it releases everything. I love this one. So how it goes is just basically, you know, please forgive me. I'm sorry. Thank you. I love you. So what I advise you to do is go through this, you know, go through the list you make and just like, you know, scramble it out and just say, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. And you can say this in any order, and then you kind of just release it. And then you just say, my new belief is this. And then you can kind of just go over it.
Yeah.
So that's the first step. And then the second one.
And you know what what I love about this is that you don't beat yourself up, that we don't move into the next story of, oh my God, how could I? And why, you know, why didn't I know? There's so much love in this and so much forgiveness.
Yeah. And it's just acceptance, you know, it's like we are humans, we are messy, right? This is how it is.
We are. One beautiful
like we can improve, but then we do like new level, new devil. There's always going to be something, right? And as long as we can embrace that, for sure. Yeah. And then kind of like the second step, like after you've done this, and like just like this is something I do daily. Like every morning I can ask myself, like, what can I declutter? Is anything coming up? Because what I notice, I've cleared stuff, and now recently I hired a team, and then a new trickle came, right?
Yes.
So this is something I just practice all the freaking time. So
and I don't think we'll ever be done. I think on my deathbed, I'll be like, oh God, I need to figure this one thing out, you know, because it's a journey. I mean, it always sounds so late, but I truly believe that we'll never be done.
Yeah. And then the second time, it's just like when we understand, like what I have learned is like whatever I focus on or whatever I want, it can come to my world. And it all comes first in, you know, in you desiring something. And I believe whatever you believe in, whether it's God or, you know, goddesses or the universe or energy or whatever, like, I don't think you can desire something except it's actually possible for you to have.
Yes.
And that is the beauty of it. So the second step to really start changing your money situation is to get really clear what you want.
Yeah.
And the clarity is like, let's say if it's a money term, it's like a lot of us don't get excited about money, but what does money mean to you? So if it's like 10,000 a month, what does that mean? Does that mean that you can go travel? Does that mean you have more time with your children? So get very specific so you can get excited about it.
And that again, and I was going to say that earlier, it's never the money. The money is just money. It's what we make it mean.
Exactly. It
You
is
know, so the
what you
bad
make
thing is
it
a good
mean.
thing, and what can we do with it? Yes,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So money needs a purpose. So get very
Yes.
specific. If you want 10,000 euro a month, so that's like where my clients usually want to start with. What does that mean?
Yeah. What
What will
would
it bring in
your
your
life look like if you had that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
And then if you're on to top of that, like if you can do like once a day, and people are different, like my favorite things is to do is just like write down in your journal, or you can walk and talk it, just get really excited about it. And like once a day, like, oh my God, I got 10,000 euros and I'm so excited. And then you make some motions, and then I can, get this beautiful house, and like talk into that or write into that. And if you can do that like for 1 or 2 minutes every day, things just start happening so quickly for you.
It's like, behave as if the thing already is there. And it's like make decisions not from where you're at, but from where you want to be.
Yeah, totally. So be, act, and behave and feel like it's already your reality. And what happens, it comes there. You don't get what you want, you get what you are. Yeah.
Yes.
So your job is to become that person, to feel that like it's already there.
Yeah. Become more of who you are. That's beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. Amplify. But I have this money course, or we call it Money Growth. It's like a full model where we really deep dive into all of this, and your audience can get access to it.
Absolutely. We're going to share the link in the comments, and then whoever wants it gets access to it. It's a really good course. Yes, I'll get access as well. So I'm excited about that. That's very generous. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I hope this was helpful. I could talk about this for hours. I'm like,
I know. Like we should. I know. Like everyone watching, we had to reschedule because I need to travel today. I want to teach my first live training in 1.5 years in Frankfurt. So we had to reschedule, and Silja only had 30 minutes. We could talk for hours, and we probably would move into sex and desire and all sorts of things. Yeah, because it's in a way, it's,
such a big topic, right?
Yeah. It's a huge topic, and everybody, in a way, it's relevant to everyone. And then there's shame around it. We don't talk about it, and then we'll never solve it.
Yeah, money is most of us have a twisted relationship with money. It's like there's so much guilt and fear and resistance and desire and longing and
also because we're never taught to deal with it. I mean, like I have a hard time with the school system anyway, because I think at school, why don't they teach us how to, like, I don't know, how to make money, how to deal with it, all of these things, but it's this mysterious thing.
Yeah.
As opposed to it just is, and now go and make it and make the best of it.
Exactly. We got to change it.
Yeah. Wonderful. So we're going to share the link to the money course in the comments. Everyone who's watching or who's watching the replay, let us know any questions you're having. We're open to it. And Silja, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, we need to, the money course, they need to give us, the
email address.
Yeah, they need to contact us so we can put them into Kajabi in our membership.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Yes.
Thanks for having me here today.
And I'm going to drop the link in the comments. Enjoy the rest of your day, Silja. I know you have to run. Yes. And we'll talk soon.
Talk soon. Thank you so much for having me.
Bye-bye. All right, bye.